I guess what I want to share today is just how I would share navigating some really challenging life circumstances. Sometimes our life circumstances just come together, like a very variety of factors come together to really kind of put us in these states that really challenge us. But in the long run, it's a very powerful time, but it can be very challenging. So basically, what I just want to share here is how I navigate these periods. So for example, I'm currently staying in Berlin, and yeah, it's a wonderful city. I've really enjoyed it here. But I got sick yesterday. I didn't realize it at first. Like I was just feeling really run down and like quite drained and exhausted. And at the same time, there's been like a lot of kind of disruptions happening in my life, which on a deep perspective have been incredibly powerful and necessary. Right? That's what I try to share on this channel, is that these kind of on the surface level it looks like things going wrong, right? Because expectations being disrupted. But honestly, these phases and periods are entirely necessary for things to open up with awakening or healing or whatever you want to talk about. I like to talk about awakening. And these phases where it feels like we lose something or things, it's only because there was expectations. Honestly. So anyways, in my life there's been like, with my travel, and then there was kind of like romantic interest and all of these kind of things like happening, and then it going a certain way, which it was the way, like, this is what is so key, is like there never was that expectation. That expectation in your mind was never actually a thing. It was an illusion, right? So anyways, it's just kind of been working through all of that, seeing how the mind can still project an ideal, and then the only reason it projects an ideal is to avoid something, right? So then when life gives us these disruptions, it looks like a disruption because it's like, oh, life went the wrong way. But what is actually happening is just life showing us that it never was that way in your mind, but what it will reveal is what is underneath that. So anyways, these kind of things can come together. Like, so for me, it was like, emotional disruption and kind of relationship things, just pulling things out of me. And then, yeah, being a bit sick and then needing to navigate the next stage of my travels. Altogether, yesterday was a very overwhelming day. And yeah, it was just like realizing that those states don't last forever, right? And then for me, realizing that I was sick on top of everything was very helpful, I guess. It was just like, yeah, this is why I feel so overwhelmed. But it's interesting, like when the body is sick, it really, it makes things more challenging in the mind, right? We'll feel like things are so, I don't know, but it's not going to last like that forever. So what my reminder is always to come back into remembering the impermanence of things. That's always for me the foundation. Like, this is something I would always remind myself back long ago when I was really struggling, and I would forget these things, right? Because we always forget things when things are very difficult. So like journaling and anything that can remind us is very, very powerful in these states, because otherwise we get so caught up in our head. But then I was doing this guided meditation by this guy on Instagram. I really love the way he talks about this stuff. It's more of like an abundance approach, but I mean, his insight is on the money. And yeah, the reminder was really to come into gratitude for the entirety of the experience, to realize that there's nothing outside of you going against you, right? For me, this is such an important thing to realize, because otherwise we're constantly going to feel like we're at the victim of something, right? That life is going against us. But for me, the reminder is always that I wanted this. And it can be challenging, and it can be important to acknowledge the part of us that doesn't want it, right? Bypassing would be pretending like, yeah, I'm happy with how things are playing out. It doesn't mean you're happy with how things are playing out. It means that you acknowledge that you attracted this set of circumstances to open something up in yourself, right? And a lot of people don't want to hear this. They want to kind of believe that they're at the mercy of life or something like that. But I honestly can't talk about things from that. I mean, I can just talk about things from my perspective. That's what this whole channel is about, and this is something that I use to navigate like challenging periods. Wow, it's incredible. Just suddenly, as the sun came out, I could feel like my mood lifting a bit. So funny. Our environmental factors have such an impact on us, on our mood, right? And kind of, yeah, just acknowledging if things feel like a lot, that maybe there's a lot going on. It's not going to be like that forever, but there's something in that set of circumstances that, you know, you wanted to learn. And maybe that means just breaking down and surrendering. Like, again, it's funny talking like this, that, but yeah, for me, the gratitude is really, really powerful, actually. Right, I was, yeah, just noticing where in my mind am I feeling like somebody, you know, did something wrong, or something shouldn't have happened. And it's like I know on the deepest level that can't happen, but it's kind of disentangling the areas of life where we still get pulled a little bit into that. And yeah, then for me coming, like consciously reminding myself that I'm grateful for this experience. And, you know, it's not toxic positivity. It's, I mean, negativity is more toxic, I would say. But I mean, the approach that I always advocate for is all inclusive of all emotion, right? If this is deep despair, release it, but don't make that your worldview. Don't identify with it. Don't become attached to it, right? If you're going to make something your worldview, make it gratitude. Gratitude for, you know, even hopelessness, right? So it's like this balance. You know, I do see how these things can turn into toxic positivity, but I do feel like don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Just because some people might be repressing their negative emotions through trying to create positive identity doesn't mean that there's not something, like, you know, some people talk about like transmutation of energy, and I like that perspective, is that by feeling into the shadow, by feeling into the difficult emotions, you release it through accepting it as it is, through accepting what needs to be felt. You release it, and then there's not that heaviness that we're carrying around with us anymore. But it's not like you need to fix the negative, if that makes sense. It's just like a natural, you know, like there's lots of different ways to talk about this. There's the more new agey way where people talk about like transmutation and, you know, what's the word? Like alchemy, you know, like alchemy of energy and that kind of stuff. Well, however you want to talk about it, yeah, I would say there is a trap though to getting stuck in negative energy. It's a nuance, right? You want to feel the negative energy, you want to release it, and, you know, but come from the space of gratitude, if that makes sense. I mean, that's just something I find helpful, that, okay, I acknowledge there's a lot of resistance coming up right now. There's a lot of difficult feelings coming up sometimes. And then it's like giving space to that, you know, so really holding space for that, acknowledging that, having an outlet for that, journaling, like really getting in touch with that. That is important, right? Like if I'm feeling anger, I'll speak from the voice of anger to myself, you know, just let that anger out. So it's not about avoiding the emotion, but it is about, right, this started to become a projection onto the world, when it's more like I'm grateful for these experiences that are making me feel this. So that was just something that really struck me yesterday. I was listening to this guy, Abundance 1000 on Instagram, and he did a helpful guided meditation, and it was like, right, I was getting sucked a little bit into just into the flavor of the resistance, when it was more like, of course, right, I'm grateful that this happened. And then that just released the lightness in me, where it was like, wow, things just feel a lot lighter. even though they're still challenging, it's like, fuck, I actually really wanted this, right? All these things that the part of my mind was like, this is really tough. I wish that things were a little bit easier. You know, it's like those stories can still play out in my mind, but it's just like, you know, kind of loosening it up. But yeah, the point on gratitude was really just a helpful reminder for me. I don't know, something about it just struck me where I was like, yeah, I'm grateful for this. Because, you know, if I'm meditating a lot, that's very clear. But if I'm quite busy in the relative world, if I'm busy socializing, doing things, seeing friends, then it's like we get so pulled up into the mind again that, and this is kind of the nature of struggle. How it happens is that we know something on a deep level, but we kind of get like deluded by thoughts, right? So, you know, I would know on a deep level that I want everything that's happening to me, but then through stories of maybe talking with people, and it's like, yeah, I'm annoyed that this happened. It's difficult, blah 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 blah. And it was good, you know. I've had a lot of helpful conversations that have helped me to kind of be more vulnerable and authentic and all of that kind of stuff. But then it was like coming back to meditate, and it was like, right, those stories are one thing, but I'm really actually grateful for all of these experiences. You know, grateful that things didn't play out the way the mind expected. There's that gratitude on one side. On the other side, there's the human aspect. It's like, you know, part of the human didn't want things to play out that way, and that's valid too. So yeah. Anyways, I don't know how much that resonated, but it's just me sharing from my perspective. And yeah, I'm probably going to France next. Lyon. I want to catch some of the Tour de France if that's possible. So yeah, I'm leaving Berlin tomorrow, and then yeah. Also, I'm a bit sick, so I can feel like as I'm talking, my mind's like a little bit kind of not as sharp and clear. But yeah. Anyways, and let me show you the view from my Berlin spot. Quite nice. A bit of construction here, so you can't see it as nicely. But yeah, it's been really fun in Berlin. Really beautiful city, really cool people, fun to explore. And then maybe France next. All right, cheers, fam.